Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Super grateful and honored that you guys took the time to be able to sit with us and help us help you. So with that, obviously today we are going to be going over the showing partner model for us. We hope that provides you a ton of value, whether you be a top producing agent, someone who's looking to build a team, someone who currently has a team. With us today is Brian Barber, who's our Director of Sales and Training. He'll be on as well. And then obviously the man, Colton Whitney. So with that, Colton, take it away.
So want to, first and foremost, please, it makes it 1,000 times easier for us. We do want this. The reason we did it this style, as opposed to doing it in a webinar format, we really want it to be interactive. So there's a lot of questions that come up on this. I am a firm believer in this model. I'm a firm believer that the majority of people should not start teams, not because they aren't, not because they're not qualified. It has nothing to do with that. But most people, if you ask them, don't enjoy holding other people accountable. They don't enjoy running teams. They don't enjoy training. They don't enjoy running the business model. But a lot of us start teams because we work our asses off to be successful in this industry. We've all heard that the failure rate is 87% within the first 2 years. We know how difficult this industry is. And then when we finally find success, our delusions that we're going to be able to make our own schedule and we're going to have total control, we realize that it's nothing other than that. It's a delusion. And we start teams, one, thinking that it's crazy profitable, two, thinking that it's going to buy us all of our time back. And in reality, anybody who has started a team and done so successfully, they'll tell you that just 100% is not the truth. Doing this model has truly changed my life in one of the best ways. My coach is the one, Eric Hatch, he's the one that brought it to me, and I'm insanely grateful for it. Because when we get successful, we all have been to the point where you're fearful on going on vacation because, God forbid, a deal catch on fire, you miss a client opportunity, we lose the conversions, something happens, and we know they say if you ever want to get busy, you got to go on vacation. So, what was driving me the most insane is I have a daughter. I had her when I was 16 years old. She is my absolute life, but having a kid as young as I did, I had to work, and I had to start out in real estate. I justified the time that I would spend. We know what it's like. You go to dinner, we're texting on our phone, we go on vacation, your kids are playing in the beach, you're sitting on the beach with your laptop, taking phone calls, doing everything that we shouldn't be doing because we should be able to be present with our families. We should be able to be present with our kids, and we should truly be able to give them uninterrupted time. And when I was younger, and I had my daughter, I justified it in my head because I knew that one day I was going to build the business that I wanted to build. And I would try to justify it in my head by saying, the work that I'm putting in now is going to buy me back the time in the future with my daughter. And while that to a certain extent is true, I just got my first wake-up call. She's almost 15 years old. Her mom and I are together. We're great friends. We get along amazingly. So we don't have any of that drama, but she was supposed to be with Dad. And I got the call for the holiday weekend. She goes, Dad, hey, I want to kind of hang out with some of my friends. We're going to go on this trip. Is that okay? And it's like, for 13 years, I've told myself I'm justifying this time because at one point I'm going to have the time to spend uninterrupted with her. The calculation that I didn't make is Dad's not cool anymore. Like Dad, she's a teenager. She wants to go on vacation. She wants to hang out with her friends. The last thing she wants to do is hang out with her parents. And I'm telling you now, the guilt that I have, because there's not one time where I went to bed early, like the times that she wanted to go to the pool super late at night, the times that she wanted to go to the park one more time. And in our head, we're so busy, we're so tired. And I was just fighting, no, sweetie, we'll go ahead and do it tomorrow. Like, I regret all of those days. And now Booney here, who we have also introduced this showing partner model to, he is one of my best friends. He's been with us for over 8 years. He just had a baby girl. And I do not want him to make the same mistakes that I made for the last 13 years with my daughter with his, because we truly do regret it. And you always hear people say it'll be over in the blink of an eye. And then we live with nothing but regret. So this model, so what we started doing is when we ended up starting up the real estate team, One, if you open up somebody's P&L, most of us are running our P&Ls completely the wrong way. And most people think that their teams are profitable, but if you go into your P&L and if you open up that P&L and you remove your own personal production from it, most people's teams are costing them money, not making money. And most of us keep our own production on our P&L, which makes us sleep comfortably at night. And it makes us think that we're running a healthy business. But if you really want to get a very accurate view as to the health of your business, you truly need to pay yourself as an actual business. You need to pay yourself a salary. So in my company, I am paid a salary as the team lead. Any sales that come through my showing partner get paid as a 1099. My production does not stay on my company's P&L. And then at the end, you're going to have your profit distributions. Because at some point, most of us tried to leverage our way out of production. And I think being leveraged out of production is completely over glamorized, because the majority of these people, when they do run their P&L the correct way, are going to find out that their team is actually costing them money, not making it. How many people, by a show of hands, are running a team? Okay. When we do these numbers, it will scare the shit out of you. My coach made me do it, and it was very humbling, and it gave me a complete reality check as to what the health of our business was. And because of it, we were able to get really, really clear on what was working and what wasn't working. But the reason that I wanted to start a team is because I got sick and tired of being a slave to my business. I got sick and tired of every time I was going to go on vacation, or every time I was at Disneyland, or anytime I was on the beach, I was on the phone watching my daughter play, or I was with my parents getting yelled at for constantly being on my phone. So we start teams, and we think that this is going to be the solution for us, because we want to keep in the business. Of course, it's a great business for us to be in, but we want to buy back the time that being successful takes away from us. But the reality of it is, starting the team, for most people, if they're really, really honest with ourselves and with the rest of the industry, it takes the majority of your time away. So what we really need to do, and what for most people should do, is they want to maintain the high profitability of being in production, while at the same time getting the time back that starting a team has delusioned most of us to thinking we're going to get. So when we're running these, I'm going to challenge everybody to actually open up your P&L and find out, is your team costing you money, or is it making you money? You want to pay yourself through your W-2 as your salary. You want to pay yourself as a 1099 through your commissions, and then you're going to have the profit distributions. Once you start doing this, you'll have a clear understanding of what is and what isn't working. Who remembers the very first time that they ever interviewed with a brokerage? We go in there, we're super nervous, like we're really antsy, and we think like, oh my gosh, I hope I get hired. And you realize you walk in and they're like, hey, yeah, if you want to join, here you go, sign up. They're happy to get you part of the team. Like if you can fog a mirror, you join a brokerage. And then when you go interview with teams, we're a little bit more particular. We're a little bit more selective, because we want to make sure that we have a culture fit. But still, starting a team is literally, you can fog a mirror. Team leads think that it means you're going to help make them successful. So we bring them onto teams. And that's how most people do their hiring process. How many of you have interviewed a salaried position? Okay. Are you way more strict on the selection of that salaried person than you are a team, or what a brokerage would be with a general agent? And why is that? Because we are so fucking reckless, and forgive me because I do cuss. We are so reckless with the failures and the successes of the people who join us, and we really shouldn't be. The reason we take so much more ownership of the process when we're interviewing somebody who is salaried is because we are truly invested in their failure or their success. We see it every day. You go sign up for a brokerage, fog a mirror, you're in. You go sign up for a team, the majority of people simply just do not care. They'll have you join the team. They hope that you are going to succeed. And literally they invest everything in you and put all their hopes and all their dreams and all their successes of your career in your hands. And the team leads take zero ownership of their successes or failures. It's super reckless. I'm so grateful, because I ended up just ending up with one of the best mentors I could have had. My mentor at the time, like I said, I was 16 years old. My dad's best friend was a legend in the real estate business. So he told me, yep, it was, I either had to do real estate, or I lived in Vegas and I was going to be a stripper. And I figured the most sustainable, the most sustainable career path that I could choose was going to be real estate. And thankfully we ended up going through this. And I had a guy who really brought me under his wing and truly cared about my success. He was my dad's best friend. I called him dad. He really took me in and made sure that I was able to learn the business, and that when I made mistakes, that I was able to learn from those mistakes. And a lot of people, when we bring on team members, one, don't have the training in place for them. Two, we don't have the support or the opportunities or the investment to really make sure that they succeed. And the reality of it is because most of us don't want to lead. We really just want people to be able to leverage our time so we can go spend more time with our families. And it's why the majority of teams are so wildly unsuccessful. If you look at the majority of teams and you break down the team leads production and what percentage of that total team's production is handled by the team lead in comparison to what's done by the actual team, the majority of teams have 85% of the production is being done by the team lead. And then everybody else on their team picks up the scraps. Everybody else on the team is either bringing their business back to the team lead. And I thank God every single day that I didn't sign up with somebody who took that little care into my success, because I was a 16-year-old kid that needed to have a path to some type of success. I knew I wanted to build a big life. But had I had somebody who was more reckless and irresponsible about the process, I never would have had the runway necessary to get off the ground and actually find success in this business. And when I see people who are hiring people to join their teams, and you look into, do you have opportunities? Do you have good training? Do you have good systems? Do you have a launching pad that is truly going to be able to get these people off the ground? The answer for most is no. And it's like, dude, we've got a 6-month window for most agents to really be able to get off the ground. Otherwise, their opportunity at success in this industry falls off of a cliff, because we can't be in a commission-based industry for this long without making a single check. And we know how hard and how long we got to work in order to get it. So then we do start the teams, we start this process, and we realize, holy shit, it's really hard to get people to do what it is that they need to do. Like if you have a team right now, one of the most common complaints that I have from people is that they can't get their team. And most of them start out the conversation like, man, my team just sucks. They won't make their calls, or man, my team just can't convert the leads. And it's always the team, it's the team, it's the team. It's never, I don't know how to train people. I don't know how to lead people. I don't have the opportunities to provide them. And when we do have the opportunities to provide them, I don't have the ability to transition my skill set to them to help them capture the ball and progress it down the field so that we can actually score. And as much as we want to blame our teams for it, it is almost always our fault. Not almost, always. Because if you do have the mentorship, and if you do have the leadership, and if you do have the onboarding process, and you do have the systems and the leads and the opportunity and the support, but they're still not doing it, you hired them. You chose the wrong person, and we don't have a strenuous enough filtering process to make sure that we are truly selecting people for our team that are going to have the skill set, the grit and the grind, and the proper expectations of what it takes to be successful in this industry. But yet when we go hire somebody, and you're going to have to go hire that W-2 employee who you are now going to have to make an investment into, we will slow down, we'll be more selective, we'll try to find the red flags, and we'll do everything we can to filter out to make sure that we don't waste our investment. And the fact that you don't treat every 1099 team agent that same exact way is truly fucking reckless, because you are taking somebody's ability and their short runway that we have to get off the ground. You are taking it and you are burning 3/4 of that runway before they realize you don't have what it takes to help get them off the ground. And then they make a switch, but for most people, it's already too late. And it's a really sad way to run a business. And again, it's not because I can tell you for sure, I 100% ran my business this way. And it was super reckless. And I feel terrible about the people who joined us at the wrong times when I wasn't prepared to adequately help them. But if our goal is to maintain profitability, which I think the majority of us would raise our hands and say, my goal is to make sure that I'm able to be profitable, I just simply want to get my life back. The showing partner model is way more profitable of a way to do this, that gives you way more control and of the predictability and the scalability of this model. And you are going to truly be able to get your time back. The very first time that I ever ran this model, I asked my daughter what she wanted to do that day. It was a Saturday, and she said, I want to go hiking. So we went on a hiking trip. And I noticed throughout that conversation, my daughter kept saying, she's like, hey, Dad, what do you want to do for dinner? She's skipping the whole part of the day. What do you want to do for dinner? And I know that I just hired my showing partner and I'm not having to go out and show homes anymore. So we go out there and as we're walking through the day, I'm like, sweetie, what do you want to do later? She's like, well, don't you have appointments? And I said, no, I'm not. Good luck explaining what a showing partner is to your kid. So I said, no, sweetie, I don't have to do that anymore. And she got this big smile on her face and she's like, cool, let's go to the pool. And I could just see like this mentality shift and this change in her emotion and this change in how she was feeling, because for the very first time, truly in a weekend, we weren't interrupted. She got uninterrupted attention from her dad, which the fact that she hadn't gotten that for 13 years truly makes me feel like shit. Anytime I tell this story, I normally cry, but I prepared it to a point where it's not going to make me emotional this time. But it's like, what a failure of a dad I was to make my daughter think that she doesn't deserve or get an entire day of my time. And then I'll never forget the day that we were sitting there in the pool and we had this entire fun day of laughter and spending time and talking to each other. She reached over, she grabs my hand and she's like, Dad, thank you so much. She's like, this is one of the best days I've had. And it's like the fact that for 13 years, she didn't get that every single weekend from me is a total failure. So I started this showing partner model. And now I finally have the ability to, one, be present, because what the showing partner model will do is buy you your time back. And what you choose to do with that time is completely up to you. I was just talking to Michael here. I think he's here. Yeah, I see you there. Michael, we have this conversation. He's building a team. And he asked me, and Michael, hopefully you're okay with me sharing this. He says, how do you balance building a team and also being in production? Like, how am I supposed to have the time necessary to set up these systems, hold people accountable, train people, run the accounting, run the business, do all the shit that we got to do on a daily basis? How am I supposed to do all of this to make sure my team doesn't get neglected and also make sure that my clients aren't being neglected? And my honest answer was, dude, it sucks. It's one of the most nightmares of a process. And thankfully, the showing partner model is what bought me the time back to do it. Now, I have chosen to use my time to, one, spend with my daughter, and two, reinvest my freed up time doing the highest dollar an hour activities that I can possibly do in my business. So I'm going to kind of give you a comparison of what the real numbers for the last 30 days have been for us. We did my showing partner. I've never once met a client. I never showed homes. I never put a listing on. I never sent contracts. I didn't handle anything. Grand total, I spent maybe 6 total hours on all of these transactions within the last 30 days. And we generated $180,000 in gross commission income with my micro team, which is my showing partner. That $180,000, had I run it through my traditional team model, I would have had to have paid $90,000 to a team agent. Now, to be super clear, I run a mega team. I do not compete against my team. I do not take company leads. My personal sphere deals, my referrals, my past clients are the only production that my showing agent handles. If I didn't have this big team and had I started running this model from the beginning, which truthfully, if I got to reset, it really is what I would do. Then at that point, the leads that we were able to generate, I 100% would take those company leads. So I always clarify, because one, I've got team members on here and I've always been super transparent with them on what numbers are and what we do and what we don't do. I don't have my showing partner out there competing against them. They just handle my personal business. But I would have had to have given away $90,000 of that commission income that for the last 13 years I've rounded, and this is just a compounding interest that all those efforts have earned me. And one, the challenge that we have as team leads, when we give that lead to one of our team agents, you give your past client to the team agent. How many of your past clients are going to be stoked over that idea? Not many. Most of them want to work with you. You've earned their trust. You've built that relationship. You've made the investment to have them want to work with you. And then we transfer it to another agent. And one, they may be okay with it. Two, the likelihood of them converting it definitely diminishes. But you give away your past clients in your sphere of influence when you do it that way. And then in addition to that, if I take 5 at-bats, if I take 5 deals that I know for a fact 100% that I can convert, when you hand it to one of your team agents, and I want to hear from some of my team leads, you can show it, you can unmute yourself, whatever you'd like. Of those 5 at-bats that you and your expertise would have the ability to convert, what percentage do you think that the brand new agent's going to do? If you could do 5, by a show of fingers, how many do you think that that person's going to be able to get? I can tell you just through the averages of your team, it's 2. And if you really got an amazing person who you're good at training, maybe 3. Of that $90,000 that gets paid out, instead, the $180,000 of commission, and I'm super simplifying this because this is not how I pay myself, and it's not how you should pay yourself either. But the $180,000, she makes a base pay. So it was, call it $4,500 with all the taxes and everything that we have to pay here in California. She made, my showing partners made $18,000 in bonuses in the last 30 days. And I was able to keep in retained commission income $157,000 and compared to $90,000. So I was able to net an extra $67,000. Well, I shouldn't say net, but I was able to retain before any expenses and any of that stuff's paid for. After paying the showing partner and paying the bonuses, I was able to keep an extra $67,500 in the last 30 days. It is 54% more profitable than had I put those same deals through the team model. Most of us don't want the teams or the responsibilities that come with it. We want to maintain the profitability of being in production, but we want to get our time back that is stolen from us when we finally become successful. Now, this has to be a win for all 3 people. It needs to be a win for the client, because if you hire a dipshit as your showing partner, and if you have a dipshit representing your clients, you have made a mistake and it is not a win for your client. It has to be a win for the showing partner, because then you're going to hear this stuff and you'll be like, well, the poor showing partner. My showing partner is going to make $18,000 in the last 30 days plus her base pay. She's been an agent for less than 6 months. Do you think she is making more money than your typical first, second, and third year agents? She absolutely is making plenty of money. And I want to be super clear. This is a process that when you implement it, it can be done very, very wrong. The success or the failure of this, if you think this is going to be an easy button that you push and that you're immediately going to be successful with it, there are a ton of growing pains. There are a ton of issues that you're going to have to work on, and we're going to go into all of that. But when you do it and you do it correctly, without any of the overhead, without this big building I have to take to house all my agents, which again, I love my mega team model. Thank God we were able to get through this messy middle period. But that messy middle period is where most people choose to stay, and it's wildly unprofitable. So it's got to be a win for the client, because we want to make sure that our clients are being represented. 1, to make sure that the investment that you make is going to be ROI positive. 2, to make sure that they're being represented in a way that you could be proud of and that's going to protect your reputation. And then 3, it has to be a win for us as the team lead. Because if we're going to make the investment, we want to make sure that this investment is going to provide an ROI. Now, most people will choose not to do this because they go, well, shit, I'm going to have to pay somebody a base salary. And it just proves how short-minded and that we can't see past our noses, because I'll take those 5 deals. Okay, let's say we take those 5 deals, and in my market, it's worth more than this. In your markets, it may be worth, who knows? But you take 5 deals, and for simplicity, let's call it $10,000 a pop. So each commission is worth $10,000. I'm going to give these 5 deals to my showing partner, and they're going to do all 5 deals, which I promise you that does not happen. So the $50,000 in commission that was going to be earned is not going to be 50. It's going to maybe turn into 15, 30, and then you got to split that. But let's not calculate the uncalculated loss that we see from the diminished conversion. We say, okay, well, if I'm going to take these 5 deals, I can hire a new agent, or I can hire an agent. I can give them these 5 deals. They're going to convert them. They're going to get 25 grand. I get to keep 25 grand. Okay, so why would I go pay somebody a salary when I can do this? Well, the reality of it is we know that 25 grand at best is going to turn into $10,000 or $15,000 for you in your pocket, because the team agents, when they're new, and even some of the 2 and the 3 years, are not going to be able to convert the same way that you do. So instead of paying a $15 per hour in your market, it's all different. We live in Orange County, so we have to pay a higher base pay. But instead of paying 15 to 20 to 22 bucks an hour to truly ensure that you keep that in those 5 deals and those 5 conversions, you'll avoid paying a stupid minimum wage job that's really going to give you and the showing partner as well, the ability to, 1, train the correct way, 2, to show up the correct way, And real quick, who are some of my teams on here? Devin, is it a challenge sometimes to get people to show up at 9 o'clock in the morning?
Every day.
If
Every day.
you have a salaried assistant, correct?
Right.
Okay. Does your salaried assistant show up every single day at 9 o'clock?
Every day before me.
Why?
That's what they have. They don't have a choice.
She has to. And this is
Right.
a line that a lot of us are really reckless with. You can't tell a 1099 person what to do. You cannot tell them when they have to show up. I don't know, like I know here in the state of California, we're at risk simply by making them use a McClure Group email address. The latency test can be failed simply by us making them use our email address or our team cards, because you can be sued. And what many brokerages and what our attorneys have told us is we will lose that labor dispute because you are treating a 1099 employee like they're a W-2 employee. It's a super dangerous spot for us to be in. The showing partner, you can require that they show up at a certain time. You can require the activities that they do. You can require them to come in and make their phone calls. You can require and hold them accountable to the communication standards and the negotiation standards and all the processes that you built in that for most team leads is really difficult to get the adoption and the buy-in with their other agents. All right, any questions on that before we start moving on? On compensation, I'll kind of go over what ours is in our market. Ours is $45,000 as a base pay. And we do a 10% override on the total commission. And again, ours is higher. One, I'm more generous because truthfully, I want to make sure that we have somebody who's going to stay. I don't want to have a high attrition. I want them to be able to make a meaningful income because there's going to be graduation requirements of this. A first-year agent, when they come into our showing partner model, hold on, is the showing partner paid? The showing partner is paid both. So they're paid a 1099 for their sales portion of the business, and they're also paid W-2. So they're 9 to 5 hours. That is their W-2. When they're showing clients on the weekends, those are their normal real estate activities, so where they receive the 1099 as a result of their commission, and that's paid through our brokerage. How do you determine the bonuses earned? So the compensation structure, we've seen it run a couple different ways. We started running ours this way to where it was 5% for a lead that they set the appointment, because we really want to motivate them to earn business. We want to help them learn how to hunt, because most people, when they end up getting into the industry, we don't give them any real structure. We don't really tell them what they're supposed to do. And in the first year, the average agent maybe closes one deal. I know that varies in each market. Here, what they're going to end up doing is they get paid the salary, any lead that they generate, because by the time that they've graduated out of the showing partner model, you need to make sure that they have complete competency in the role. Like the graduation requirements for us is minimum time served. So for you, it could be 1 year. I would recommend having 1 to 2 years as a minimum time served. You want to make sure that they have competency in the role, like they have fully mastered the ability to be an agent, how they respond to people, how they uphold themselves, how they negotiate, how they represent you and your team. All of these type of things have to make sure that they have competency. And then you also want to make sure that there's a minimum production requirement. How many transactions did they have to produce in order to graduate into a traditional team agent role? Because what they're able to do, like just imagine if you were trying to go play golf and you're given the ability to watch 1,000 hours on YouTube of Tiger Woods, or you could spend an hour with Tiger, with him actually watching you, learning the mistakes that you're making, giving you the adjustments, giving you the tips, telling you where you need to put your shoulder position, where you got to look. Booney, you're the golfer, you can help me on this. But when you actually have a coach there helping you become a better golfer, watching 1,000 hours on YouTube or having an hour with Tiger, which option would you choose to make you a better golfer? You're going to spend the hour with the actual coach. The really great thing about the showing partner model is when the transaction becomes difficult, and this is really where being an experienced agent keeps your deals together and all your deals heading in the right direction. Having the experienced partner overseeing all the communication and the important parts of the conversation is what keeps deals together, what keeps buyers off of the fence, and what keeps your transactions moving in the right direction. Like we just had an example of a dad who showed up in the middle of a transaction doing what dads do best, trying to protect his daughter, telling her that she overpaid, telling her that the market's tanking, doing all the things that most buyers do in the nightmare scenario. And we were able to talk him off the ledge using our experience and using the data that was able to make him agree and be more comfortable with her doing this. My showing partner at the time, when we hang up the call, knows that that conversation would have gone completely differently because she'd never had that conversation. In regard to the compensation, you got the base pay and you have the bonus. The bonus is going to be 5 to 10%. Some pay less, some pay more. You're going to have to make this subject to your market. 5% for anything they hunt and set the appointment for, 5% to anything that you set for them. Because at the end of the day, I've got Michael on the call. Is your highest and best use showing properties, or is your highest and best use calling into the database and converting leads?
Converting my ass off.
Converting your ass off. Then you set the appointment. So that lead that you set for your showing partner, the way that a lot of people run this, that showing partner would only be paid 5% because he set that appointment for her. And then she collects her 5% from just showing that property. And then had she set that appointment by calling into the pond, by doing whatever it is that you use for generating properties, she would have the opportunity to earn the entire 10%. Does that make sense? Or does anybody have questions on that?
Hey, Colton. So back on the piece. So it's hourly. So you're not paying them from a salary, or are you giving them a monthly allotment?
It's hourly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. It was like 25.
Yeah, she's paid a base pay of 45,000. Like, for example, my friends in Fargo, North Dakota, they pay theirs 35,000. So they can get away with a lesser base salary because they live in a much cheaper market. So us in Orange County, we definitely have to pay higher because you cannot live for that here.
What about if they generate their own leads?
So sphere deals, that's a huge piece. And people, like the way that we run ours, the whole point of it is I want my first year agents to get the experience that they get by being under your wing, by having the involvement in your transactions, by being on the phone during every important piece of the conversation. Because let's say, for example, like when somebody comes in, what role does the lead agent take and what role does the showing partner take? The showing partner's entire job is 3 things. 1, leverage you and your time so you can focus on doing the high dollar an hour activities. 2, training under you so that they're able to sharpen their skill set and become a better agent by training directly with you. And then 3, and in this order, their job is then to go lead generate and create additional business. Because you should never allow your showing partner to graduate into a traditional team role until you know that they can be dependent on selling real estate without company leads. The entire thing is you want to make sure that they have 1, the motivation and the incentive, which we're going to go into next, and 2, that they have the ability to feed themselves and actually be successful in the industry without you. Because God forbid you get hit by a bus tomorrow, how many of our team agents wouldn't have the ability to continue in this business because they've just learned to eat off of the plate as to put it onto the plate. Like, I don't want them to just have to eat from what we provide. We really want them to learn the skill set that's going to be able to add food to the table. So anytime we have a sphere deal that is generated through an open house, if they go door knocking, if they have a friend or a family member, we pay them 25% as opposed to the 10%. So all their sphere deals, they will have the ability, and you should have a minimum standard for graduation requirements. You should have a minimum standard that you're going to require that was produced from their own organic efforts so that they can prove to you that they have competence in the role. They know how to lead generate, they know how to handle the transaction, they know how to maintain the relationships, and they have the ability to continue filling their pipeline, because it has to be a win-win for both sides. It has to be a win for them and it has to be a win for you. Ben Kinney, who, if you guys don't know who he is, he's a pretty damn successful agent. He has a rule that 50% of their business has to come from them. The other 50% comes directly from him. It has to be a win-win. If you want my half of the pie, you got to have your half of the pie. So that's how he runs his. We don't have that requirement, but it's a really damn good discipline for us to teach on the team. And one of the biggest objections that I hear people say is, well, what happens if they leave? You know, you're going to teach them how to do everything. And clearly we've all heard this quote, it's not mine, but what happens if you don't and they stay? I want somebody to be well-trained. I want somebody to be well-versed. I want somebody to be able to succeed without me. And I have absolutely zero fears in teaching them and having them go away. Because as team leads, it really should be something that we are constantly driving to achieve, is how do we train them so good and make it that they don't want to leave? I think that's like a
Cool.
Missy Elliott song.
What if you're not interested in having a graduation because you don't want a team? Like I had a team. I'm not good at team leading, nor do I want to be. I just want to. That's why I'm here for the showing agent. And I sat with Rob Dekansky. I'm from New Jersey. He told me this a while ago, and I was always trying to make the best agent or someone like me. And most agents just want to be workers, in my opinion, more than entrepreneurs.
They do, for sure. Most agents want the stability, and that's what this provides. Go put out 2 ads, do a showing partner ad with the salaried position plus bonus, and then just go do a traditional real estate ad. Watch how many ads come in for the salaried position. I promise you, you'll get 100 times more response on the salaried position than you will the 1099. You got to be a special kind of stupid to want to go work 60 hours a week, every single week for years before we have any real meaningful success. Like again, I didn't have an option. I didn't want to get into real estate. I don't like real estate. I don't like talking to clients. I just had a kid super young. I knew I wanted to have a big life. I knew real estate would give me the platform to do it. But truthfully, I don't enjoy real estate. It's not what I enjoy. However, it's all I could do because I didn't have any other skill sets. I started real young with my daughter, and I'm super happy that I did. But it's the only thing that I could have done to have the type of life that I want to live. Most people want stability. Most people want predictability. Most people do not want the risk that is involved with 1, starting a big team and having all the expense, or 2, being a solo agent that's not going to be provided opportunity. We know how hard this industry is getting, and it's getting harder each day. So for those people, you have what's called lifers, the type of people who are going to stay your showing partner forever. And if you want that, you better be ready to truly treat this person, because one of the biggest mistakes I see people make is you're going to treat this person like they're a $45,000 investment. And the reality of it is you got to shift your mindset and understand that this is a multi-million-dollar investment when made correctly. Because if you put the time into them, you want them to put all your time into you, and then you just hope that it works for them. You have to make sure that you're giving them the platform. You have to make sure that you have the ability to lead them, because while granted, you don't have to go lead a big team, you still are leading a showing partner. You need to be able to help them. How do they have the initial phone call? Where can we help them improve? Where did they go wrong? How can I make that? Because the problem, and I hear it all the time, we're condescending when we teach, and we don't give people the runway that we had to make the mistakes that they inevitably are going to make. You not be a jerk and make them feel stupid for making the mistakes that we all know we made. But the reason you get more upset is because now you've had to make an investment. They may have lost that return for you, and that's unacceptable for most people. That is a wrong mentality of a team lead. Make the mistakes. Let's get them out of the way, because you are going to make them. But you do need to have the ability to train this person. You do need to invest your true time into them to make sure that they are actually going to be successful. Because when you treat them as a partner and not as a subordinate, and when you approach it as you work for them and they don't work for you, you will get a far better result, somebody who will stay with you for a longer period of time, and somebody who will be more invested in the success of that micro team than you would if you treated it any other way. So the lifers are truly an amazing investment for you, and it's a good deal for them because they're able to continue growing. Their organic business will continue to grow. You'll continue to feed their business. They get the stability that most people desire and yearn in any type of employment situation. And they'll stay with you for life sometimes. I have a buddy of mine in Seattle. He's had a showing partner for 6 years. That showing partner has zero interest in doing what he does. But you got to pay them well. Like, this is what we all try to do. We think, I see people all the time like, oh, I want an ISA, so I'm going to go hire somebody in the Philippines that I pay $300 a month, and that's going to be an effective ISA. No, it's not. Like, you got to make the investment that is going to truly make it successful. And when you do, that $45,000 investment becomes a multi-million-dollar revenue creator for you.
Colton,
Yes.
we have Josh on deck, but Tasha had a couple questions. She asked, what activities do they do for you? Are they writing offers and negotiating as well, besides showing homes? And also, do they have access to the lead pond?
So you have the people who are going to be lifers. You have the people who will be graduates. And if you're going to start your first year in real estate, we know what the failure rate is. These people don't know what to do. To be a real estate agent in the state of California, you spend 135 hours in a course, and then you graduate and you don't know shit about selling real estate. You don't know what's going to make you successful. You have no idea the activities that you're supposed to do. You don't know how to maintain the relationships. You don't know how to negotiate. You don't know anything. To be a nail technician in the state of California, you will spend 400 hours becoming a nail technician. And at least when you become a nail technician at the end of that 400 hours, you know how to do fucking nails. We don't know how to do it in real estate, and it's an insane thing. But then a brokerage ends up hiring them, throwing them into the bullpen, praying to God that these people will bring some revenue into the business. And because they don't have to make an investment, the brokerage truly doesn't give a shit whether they succeed or fail. They just want to build their business off of them. The showing partner model eliminates that. You're going to come in under a top producing agent. Look, at the end of the day, if you're starting this model, it's not because you're brand new and you have no idea what you're doing. Like, it is an investment that you are going to have to make, and you've earned it. And I'm telling you, you can't afford not to. Because when you make this investment, if you're, and this is where everybody worries, like, well, I'm going to have to pay the money. And, you know, I'm really okay working as much as I'm working. No, if you eliminate all of these activities, and now we're going to go into that. If you eliminate the going and showing properties, if you eliminate the having to update the MLS, if you eliminate putting a property into the MLS, meeting vendors, meeting inspectors, sending the properties, making all the shit that we do that's not the high dollar an hour activities that we do, when you pass that to the showing partner, which is what they do, you are now able to spend that time focusing on the high dollar an hour activities. And you should be able to add at least another 7 to 15 to sometimes 20 transactions by reinvesting your low dollar an hour activities back into high dollar per hour activities. When you can focus your time doing the thing that you do best, because at the end of the day, no matter how good your training is, no matter how good your systems are, at the end of the day, most of you are going to be better than the people that join. So you focus on that high dollar an hour activity. You generate more appointments. When you've set that appointment and created somebody who wants to go meet, that's when you do the handoff. And we'll discuss how you do this the right way, because you can royally screw this up, which we did. You can royally screw it up to where that handoff feels like you're giving it to a subordinate. And then it breaks the relationship and it breaks the trust. So the activities is everything that you don't want to be doing. You don't meet a photographer for photos. You don't meet the stager. You don't set up the staging. You don't set up the photos. Your showing partner does all of those activities. Keep in mind, priority number one is to leverage you as the lead agent. That lead agent is you. So all the things you shouldn't be doing, that showing partner is going to do. Then when they're done with those activities, priority number two is they got to train. And we're going to have to start picking up the pace here because I'm not going to get through this in an hour. They got to train under you. And we'll go through kind of what the ideal schedule is for training. And then once they're done training, then they go lead generate, and you have to teach them how to do so. You know what? He just asked a really good question. How do you set proper expectations around evening and weekend showings? When you hire this person, you make sure that they understand they're still a realtor. When you hire this person, you let them know this is a lifestyle role. Like, we have an ISA whose job it is to make phone calls and set appointments for our agents. She's the one that does this. When you hire an ISA, you tell them, like, you can't have an ISA that clocks in at 9 and clocks out at 5, because the majority of the responses come in after they clock out. The majority of their income is going to come from being responsive to those late night phone calls, those late night text messages, and those weekend showings. That's where the real money comes in. So you need to help them understand you're still an agent. You're just being given a livable salary that's going to give you the runway to learn what you need to learn, so you can implement it the way you need to implement it, and so that you can close the deal, so you can take a transaction from the time you first talk to that client, to setting the appointment, to meeting the appointment, to writing the contract, to negotiating the request for repair, to getting it closed. That whole year with you that you're paying them that livable salary, that's what they're learning how to do. And so when they graduate to being a team agent, they can actually hit the ground running and be a productive agent who's not going to cost you, the team lead, an absolute fortune in lost conversion and lost opportunity. All right. Any questions on that before we move on?
Quick question, Colton.
Yeah.
Just on that, what happens, if they are still running their own business, they're maybe new and then they're starting to pick up, and you ever run into situations where they, like, let's say you have 3 showings you want them to do, and all of a sudden they have something of their own showing. Like, how do you deal with those conflicts?
So this is not I hire you and I get to go hang out with Devin in Hawaii and sip Mai Tais on the beach all day. Like, at the end of the day, they are there to leverage your time, but this doesn't mean that you get to just bounce out and not be a partner to this person and help support them. So there are going to be times where sometimes you got to step in and you got to show a house. There are going to be times when your showing partner might be on vacation, and God forbid you have to become a realtor again. Like those times will exist in our world. We have two of them. So they like Booney's showing partner and my showing partner. When one has the day off and the other one doesn't, we make sure that somebody's on call. So if you don't have that set up yet, because you can scale this into like my buddy, Mike Novak, he has 6 of these. He has 6 showing partners and they've been with him for a long time. He will make over $1 million just off of his showing partner revenue, not including like that's what he nets as a selling agent. That's not including what the company gets. He crushes it with this model. And it's why I'm so passionate about it, because it's working really well for us. So on the open houses,
Thank you.
when we have listings, yes, they do hold open houses. They're open houses that they hold. Those are their own organic efforts. Those own organic efforts are going to allow the agent to build their own business, and they're paid a higher percentage. So they hold open houses, and again, they're going to get the listing launched. They're going to do all of that work. Now, so the priorities I told you, it's 1, leverage you from all the activities you don't want to do. 2, to train and learn under you. And then 3, when they're not training and learning under you and they're not doing a leveraging activity, they're lead generating. So it's a really critical component that they understand the priority of the activities. And then 3, when we tell them to go lead generate, they know how to go lead generate. Because and this is kind of one of the areas, are they working open houses? Yes, they would get 25% of that. Now, this is where everybody screws it up, because this model really, truly works fantastically. Even if you had a showing partner that just did 10 million in production, it will be at least 44% more profitable than doing the team model. You're going to have more control of it. They're going to have a runway. They should have the coaching and the investment from you to actually want them to become a really good agent, because you're going to become not only their teacher, but also their coach. Because as team leads, a lot of the times we think that we can just teach them what to do and they're going to do it. And the right way to train anybody, this applies to a showing partner, this applies to your team agents, is you watch me, I watch you, then you go do. We all go train our agents and we say, okay, watch me, watch how great I am. Okay, now go do it. And then 6 months later, you realize they're doing the opposite of what you've told them. And you're blaming them, not yourself, for having a shit fucking training process. You need to allow them to watch you. You watch them so they can prove competency in the role. You teach them so you can show them that they know how to do what you've told them to do. They're doing it the correct way. Your clients are being represented the way that you want them to be represented. And then when you trust them to do that, then they can go out on their own and they go do it. But again, this is where everything I'm saying people screw up. By the way, it was me. I screwed at that. So then you think, okay, I teach them how to do it. They're finally doing it. And then we stop doing the reinforcement training. This is a never-ending investment of time and training and coaching. So the reinforcement training is 100% necessary to keep the train on the tracks. So when you guys meet, there needs to be a perfect schedule, because the one thing we do is like, okay, what do we do when how do you talk to a lead? How do you handle objections? How do you, when you set the appointment, what's the process that you go through? What are your agents doing in regard to the preparation? Are they showing up with a black and white MLS sheet and saying, hi, here's the kitchen, here's the bath? Are they doing all the dumb shit that doesn't matter, that they don't need an agent for? Or are they showing up and handling that showing in a way that's actually going to create the secondary showing? Because that's our goal. You have to, 1, train these people how to handle the conversations. You got to train them how to be able to convert the leads. You got to train them how you want them to follow up, how they handle the pre-showing appointments, how they actually handle the showing appointment itself. How many of those people that they meet, are they successful in securing the secondary appointment? When they're sending properties and they're doing updates, why are they calling? What are they doing? How are they saying it? There's all these steps that are required that have made you guys so good at what you do, who you now have to go take the time to train it to somebody else. And you're actually going to have to build this step-by-step process to create it. So it is an investment of time, but when you do it the right way, it's going to pay you back in dividends, because you are taking the time that's necessary in order for them to be successful.
Do you prefer experienced or unexperienced agents?
I hate experienced agents. They're sloppy, they're lazy, they have wrong expectations, they don't have the work ethic that I want them to have. And most of the time, they don't work very well. But the challenge is you got to be comfortable and become an actual leader that's going to have the patience and the willingness to transfer your skill set to them so that they can then go perform and execute to 70 to 75% of your capacity. They're not going to be as good as you. But the point is, when you go on vacation with your daughter, or if your kids are in the beach playing, you get to fucking be there and play with them. You get to leave and go on vacation and come back and not have a client pissed off that you weren't available. You didn't miss a referral opportunity. You come back and have more money in your bank and have more escrows in the pipeline, and you just went on vacation for 2 weeks. Mind you, it doesn't happen overnight. It is a process to get you to this point, but truly we're to a point now where we can do this, and I can truly invest my time the way that I want to invest it. So if you're going to invest it to create more time with the family, do it. And if you're going to create it to invest more time in the business so you can build the team aspect, do that, but it's going to take the time and the training. Yes.
I had a question to follow up. I think it was Harry that said he doesn't have a team. He doesn't want a team. I'm in the same position. I had my own brokerage. I had a team. I'm not interested in that model. Right now,
Totally.
I'm working with mentoring new agents and bringing over experienced agents to EXP with the intention of using them as showing partners. But I don't have the desire or goal to have a team or transition them. It's more of a sort of a tribe thing like Fast Forward is, where
Yeah.
I'm bringing them in, I'm leading them, want to utilize them as showing partners, but they're independent agents. Do you see something like that working, a modified version?
Here's what I don't like about it. One, it's not fair. Like this has to be a win for the lead agent. It has to be a win for the showing partner, and it has to be a win for the client. At the end of the day, using that model, and it works. And there's multiple ways to do this. The reason I choose not to do it is I want to require, you can't go make a 1099 person go show up and wait 3 hours for a photographer or do staging. You can't go make them do those things. So I want those activities leveraged out. Legally, you cannot require that of a 1099 employee. Number two, I want somebody that I have the ability to control the quality of the relationship with the client. When you run the other model, I promise you, somebody who is not salaried and somebody who is not benefiting greatly from you is not going to be that invested in following your exact process that's made you successful. When you meet a client and you say, okay, how do you meet a client at the house? By the way, this is where every team screws up. You get really good at setting the appointments. You get really good at having the conversations. And then you go, if you track this, which if you don't, you should, when they meet the client, how many of them are successful in securing the second appointment? The number is going to be really, really scary for you, because it was for us when we started tracking that. Why? Well, because they're not following the process that we've implemented. So we asked the question on a scale 1 to 10, how close is this? Like we have an exact process that when they go show a home, it's like when you go to Nordstrom's, you go to McDonald's, wherever you go, and there's a standard process that is followed, your likelihood of getting that adoption for the execution is going to be 10 times higher with somebody who is paid and required to implement and execute.
Yeah, makes
So
sense.
the challenge that you're going to have is one, and it's also not fair to the showing partner, because they're going to get, like, guys, if we all take on a showing partner right now, that person will ask a question, they're going to get 40 different responses. You need to have a consistency and a process that is consistent for this person to truly be able to learn and get the leadership and the accountability that they need. And not doing it the W-2 paid way does not provide that for the showing partner, in my opinion. And again, there's people who run it and they run it very successfully and it works for them. But for me personally, I'm not doing that. Okay. Any questions before we move on for that? I want to get to the perfect schedule and then just kind of the maintenance routine.
Yeah, Michael has a quick question. He said, how does the compensation get affected by the ISA compensation for the agents that you are hiring showing partners for?
So keep in mind, you got Booney on here, Brian. When you do, you're not paying for somebody's showing partner. We personally do, because Booney's also our director of sales, but his name's Booney, not Brian. We all call him Booney. So he's our director of sales. We wanted him to be able to stop doing the time consuming stuff. So we allowed him to have the showing part. We pay for the showing partner for him. Now, for your other agents, that's a direct benefit and a compensation for him to get his weekends and his nights back with his daughter and his wife. And then importantly, he also his showing partner does take team leads. So she brings him deals that otherwise without her, he wouldn't have.
Compensation from the ISA would come direct. So say you had the showing partner that was with, so say he has a showing partner and they're going to get the, let's just say 5% because they're showing the home. Is the ISA getting the other 5% for setting the appointment?
No, if you're running it that way, yes. So say, for example, whoever set the appointment's getting the 5%. And so if it's a showing partner of the ISA would get the 5%. There's a million ways to structure it. The way that we work ours, the ISA is paid off the top of the commission for their compensation. And then what's left is what's going to be split. So if the ISA set the appointment, it comes off the top. ISA's compensation is not affected. The showing agent and the lead agent don't give a shit because they were given an appointment that without the ISA, they wouldn't have had. So it works out really, really well that way.
Gotcha.
Kevin had asked if we had an SOP for this that we could share.
Yeah, so I'll share after this, I'll send the SOP for it. Where this is going to, in typical us, I thought we could knock all this out in an hour and there's just no way. The perfect schedule is going to be 8 o'clock to 8:30, and you guys got to follow this because you can hire the showing partner, you can train them correctly, but you actually have to execute and treat this person as an investment and give them your time that's going to allow this to be successful for both of you. Because you got to keep in mind, we got to find great people, we got to train great people, and then the hardest part for most team leads is you got to keep great people. And you're going to keep great people by giving them the time that's necessary to allow them to grow and to allow them to progress. If you guys ever hear my coach, you're going to hear a lot of things that I've heard him say. These are all words that have come out of his mouth that he's trained. And that's why we don't really have people that leave, is because we truly want to create an environment that's a win-win for everybody. So when you hire this person, you find the right person, you're training the right people, you need to have a schedule and a framework that's going to allow them to be successful and to allow your business to progress. So from 8 o'clock to 8:30 every single day, you need to be role playing. And that's the worst thing for everybody. I know nobody likes to do it. We role play as a team every single day from 8 o'clock to 8:30. They got to learn what to say. They got to learn how to say it. They got to learn when to say it. It is by far one of the most overlooked pieces of what's making agents really successful or making agents that aren't. We all do the same shit. None of us are launching rockets. We sell used houses for a living. Some of us are doing it way more successfully than others. And it's because they have mastered the ability of what to say. You can say the same exact thing, but Jason, I see Jason on here. Jason can say it, and then I can say it the total dog shit way. And Jason's going to end up making hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars of commissions. But my lack of ability to say it confidently and to say it in a way that is going to be compelling, he's going to get better results than I am. We said the same thing. He just says it better than I am. You have to train your showing partner to know what to say and how to say it, because eventually you're going to do the handoff. When they take over that handoff, you got to make sure that they're not going to fumble the ball. So 8 to 8:30, you role play. Excuse me. Sorry, I skipped the set. 8 to 8, and how you guys do ours. Ours is different. We start our days at 8, not at 9. So ours are earlier than this, but I'm trying to be more realistic. So for you guys, 8 to 8:15 should be the daily setup. Booney and Marissa, his showing partner, they meet every single morning and they set up their day. They go over the clients that they need to address, what his activities and involvement there needs to be. They set up their week. These are the clients. These are the tasks that we need to do. These are the balls that we need to progress down the field. And then they role play every single day from 8 o'clock to 8:30. All right, 9 o'clock to 10:45, they should be lead generating. Not focusing on the business of today, but focusing on the business of tomorrow. And then after that, we want to make sure that we are then handling the business of today, doing the follow-up calls, sending the properties, going out and showing properties, negotiating the contracts. The part where we skip is we confuse follow-up with prospecting. And it is not following up with clients that you already have and you've already met. That is not prospecting. So the very first thing you do, and you set these expectations very clearly with your showing partner, is you are to call people who you have never met. So you are to call people and do activities that are going to create more appointments, which is going to create your stability in future business. And then when we're done with that, that's when you can start following up. That's when you can start handling the business of today.
I love that, Colton. Hey, as your whole team, do you guys do your scripts virtually or live?
So the way that we work, we've become bigger. It used to always be in person. As we've gotten bigger, we've got a lot of single parents. So Mondays are required in person. And then Tuesday through Friday, they're allowed to be on Zoom. I can tell you right now, the top producers are all in the office. The ones who kind of make it, and then the ones who kind of do what they're supposed to do, they Zoom in most of the time. There's just a very clear correlation, and it obviously just speaks to work ethic, discipline, and consistency. I'm going to try to wrap it up here pretty quick. The most important piece of this is that you set the clear expectation with your showing partner. They need to know what's acceptable. They need to know what your standards are. They need to know what your practices are. And in order for you to teach that to them, you need to know what it is that you do that's made you successful. So how do you handle, how do you speak, how do you set the appointments, setting the calendar invite increases the show up rate by 12%, how you facilitate the actual showing, how you go about everything you do, you need to have a clear understanding of what that is so that you can then teach it to them and hold them accountable to it. You need to create an environment that is completely okay for when you start that meeting and you start that one-on-one, for me to say, Brian, what is it that I'm doing that's driving you fucking nuts? Hey, can we have an honest conversation with one another? Can you tell me the things that I'm doing? Can you be completely open-minded, and can you be objective to hear my point of view and help us progress and build this thing in a really productive and effective manner? So we need to have those conversations so that we can have it with them. They can speak openly to you. They can tell you the things that they're doing wrong, because when you communicate and you communicate well, the relationship will stay intact and you can have a lifer. But when you create this environment where they're a complete subordinate, and when you create this environment where they just have to do what you say and not have an ability to speak back or tell you to where you're screwing this up, you're not going to have a lifer. We just had to have this conversation with my showing partner the other day. There was stuff I was doing that was driving her crazy. You can't be an asshole and tell her that she's wrong and that her perspective doesn't matter. There was multiple things that I was doing that justifiably were making her job more difficult. And now, in order for us to make this work and to be more efficient, I have to change those things. And I'm totally open to that, because I want her to stay, because this is an investment that can have a huge positive ROI, and it has dramatically changed the quality of my life. And at the same time, she's able to make a ton of money as a result of it. Now, the part where the most common objection on this is your clients aren't going to want to work with somebody else. They want to work with you. You're the Allah. You're the important thing. You are better than everybody, than any. They want to work with you. I'm telling you 100% without a doubt that is wrong. Your clients will be happy to follow this process so long as you set the framework the right way. So when you have this conversation with somebody, the way that we describe it, I'm the doctor, my showing partner is the nurse. I don't take them in. I don't collect their paperwork. I don't check them in. I don't take their temperature. I don't take their weight. I don't do any of that stuff. The vitals of the transaction, that's all going to be handled by the nurse. What your clients use you guys for, and what you are the most effective at, is handling the important parts of the conversation. The negotiations, the initial consultation, the strategy sessions, the financing conversations, the actual negotiations, the requests for repair, not showing properties, updating the client, setting appointments, sending all the different, that's not what you are best at. That is what the nurse is going to do. You show up, you look at all the vitals, you look at the documentation, you're going to diagnose and prescribe. You don't have a problem when your doctor doesn't take your temperature. Your clients don't have a problem when they're not showing you the property. They don't need you for that. Where your expertise makes you effective is when you are able to keep a deal heading in the right direction. When the challenges arise, your expertise and knowledge of the market and of the process is what keeps that deal and what keeps that train on the track. So when we do this handoff, we just let them know and you're honest with it. I'm going to introduce you to my partner. Not my showing partner, not my assistant. I'm going to introduce you to my partner. She is going to be showing you the properties. Then you're going to create a group text. All communication has to happen in a group text. This is where you will royally screw it up. If it does not happen in group text, you will not be on the same page, and it is not going to be a harmonious process. So the group text is where the intro is made. Please meet my partner, Harmony. If you have any questions, one of us is always available to you guys as a client. Our promise to you is that when you see a property, you're never going to miss that opportunity because I'm not available. You guys, it's okay that you're busy because you're successful. I'd be more concerned as a client if my real estate agent was not busy, because if they're not busy, it's probably because they're not very good at what they do. So one of us using this model is always going to be available to you in this process, and it creates a better experience for the consumer. The clear difference, and now once you've done the handoff in your lead generation and everything that you do, and you've handed the client off, you're going to be thumbs upping and hearting text messages. And that's pretty much going to be your involvement. The showing partner is going to be sending them the properties. The showing partner is going to be setting up the appointments. When there's a question, Marissa will say, hey, you know what? They'll talk about offer strategy. They set up a group text. We're going to have an offer strategy session. We create a group phone call. Brian is now going to lead that conversation, not a brand new agent. That brand new agent then has the ability to listen to the way Brian navigates the conversation and handles the negotiation. They're the ones that here when they're trying to lowball, how does he overcome that totally wrong tactic? And how does he get them to make a market value offer? That showing partner is absorbing information and learning the right way to do it so that when they do graduate, they're going to have the ability to do it at 70 to 75% of his capacity. And then when we go and we talk about offers, the showing partner is going to go write the offer. The showing partner is going to submit it. The showing partner is going to handle all that process, following up with the listing agent, ordering the inspections, meeting the inspector. And then when we get the inspection report back, and we all know that's where a lot of deals fall apart, the new agent who has no idea that the air gap in the kitchen isn't going to make the house fall apart. Like all the stupid little things that pop up on every single inspection, Brian has the know-how to diffuse the stuff that's a non-issue and how to progress that conversation towards a closing. And then when we talk about writing the actual request for repair, we discuss it, we agree it. The showing partner is then going to go write that documentation and send it to the client, collect the signatures, and then send it back to the listing agent, not you.
So it sounds like this position is working full-time Monday through Friday, plus they are working on the weekends.
Yes.
Can you tell, like, how many hours? Because you're holding them to a full-time work schedule Monday through Friday under the W-2, and then like how many hours on the weekends are they working as well?
So there are traditions. So for that part, for the real estate activities, that is where their 1099 compensation comes in. You should be giving time off. Like there should be, and we're having to do now, because truthfully, ours has had a difficult time taking time off.
Mhm.
And I see her starting to crack. And that is 100% not something that I want. And it's not something that we're okay with.
Yeah, I
Now
can
that
see
we
how
have-
that would lead to burnout really quickly.
But look at what we all do every single day, every day of our lives for the last how many years we've been in the business. It's what we do and it's what we signed up for. And as long as you set the framework up front, hey, listen, this isn't going to be you get to clock out and never have to talk to a client outside of your working hours. You are still a real estate agent. The difference is I'm paying you a livable salary so that you can pay your bills, not have commission breath, have the ability to put gas in your car to get to the fucking showings and focus truly on the client and being the best representative for the client that you can be without letting the fact that you can't pay your bills the next day to enter your emotional status in the way that you're communicating with that client.
Mhm.
Because it happens and we
Yeah.
hear it and it's going to deter clients. So you're giving them a livable salary to go do these things. And the expectation in the interview process is, Mary, when you do this, you're going to have to work your ass off. You're going to be working nonstop. Don't get this twisted and think that this is a 9 to 5. Because if you do not sign up for this role because you will find out very, very quickly how much work is required in order for it to be successful. However, my showing partner, and dude, she just ran 8 deals in the last 30 days. She's been an agent for less than 6 months. Do you think she is stressing out beyond belief because of all the issues that arise in this market? She's so stressed. She is so stressed. She cried. She broke down. She had a panic attack. Called her in. You just got how many? The average agent here in our market, Mary, you probably know. I think here in our market, the average is 1 per year. She just got 7 years worth of experience in a month. If you don't think she has the capacity to now go into next month and handle the objections and handle the difficulties and handle the things that the market throws at us that make deals fall apart and not actually have the skill set and the know-how of how I'm going to handle this, she's going to be 10 times more prepared than the traditional agent who's selling one house every 6 months.
Mhm.
So you do set the stage and you create the framework to let them know. Today, literally, it's on my to-do list with Holly. We are going to force the time off because I do truly want them to be able to take at least one dedicated day, and it's not going to be a weekend. However,
Right.
she was in San Francisco last weekend. It wasn't a problem. She was in Arizona the weekend before that. It wasn't a problem because we have somebody who can back her. And when you don't have the team set up like I have, just understand you're going to have to occasionally step in and help these people. They're a partner.
Mhm. So you just have one of these right now, or you have more than one that support each other?
So we have 2 currently and soon to be 3.
Okay. And just so I'm clear, it is much more than a showing partner. They are actually writing the offers, negotiating, seeing it through, because I know some people run a showing partner model where they're just being paid per door or per hour, but they are not doing any of the submission, writing the offers, negotiating any of that.
That is, by the way, and I will argue anybody, and I know there's people who do it successfully, that is garbage. That is completely garbage. The
Yeah, I
representation.
just want to understand the difference between what they're
For
doing
sure.
and what you're doing. They're actually seeing it all the way through.
The rent-a-partner model exists and a lot of people do it. And it says, okay, so you can get 6 agents that all share. They're going to pay the hourly rate. They're going to pay the person $20 an hour, whatever it is, or per door. The buy-in from that person and the way that you treat somebody just said they tried it and it is garbage. You have no ability to maintain any quality for the client. You have no ability to train and hold this person accountable the same way that you would with a W-2 employee. It is an investment. Mary, when I hire you and when you choose to join me and invest your success into this career in this industry, in me, I'm going to give back to you as much as you give to me. This is a partnership that we are going to work together on. I kind of worried because my girl had the meltdown last night because she's such a hard worker and she's working her ass off. And I know, I'm like, look, first and foremost, I'm not a traditional showing partner. Like Brian, his job, like he's able to dedicate a lot more time to his showing partner than I can mine. He's also like, I'm doing these events and we're doing all the other stuff that we're doing to build the team. I am available to her at a fraction of what the rate that Brian is. So I told her, I'm like, look, you do have a tough job because you're getting all my business and I'm not available to you the way that I traditionally would if this is all that we did. And then afterwards, she sent me a text and she's like, hey, just know I'm super happy. I'm insanely grateful. I know how much I'm learning. And like the whole goal is I really want her to become a lifer. I don't want her to want to graduate and bail out of the process. So like, I hope that answers it. The rent-a-partner model, one, is not a win for the client. It's not a win for the showing partner because they're not going to have a consistency in training or accountability. And it's really not a win for the team agent because how does your person show up? Do they show up in their sweats and kind of just sit on their phone the whole time and text while you were in Mexico and Cabo? Because I promise you those type of things and those type of interactions that inevitably are going to be the case when you're paying somebody $20 a door. I promise you they're not showing up the same way because there's also not the recourse or the adverse effect that what happens when they underperform. My girl's not going to show up and treat a client like shit because she's in a bad mood. I promise you yours will that day you're paying them $20 to go show a door. The client's 30 minutes late and now has an attitude with your client because they're screwing up their day.
Right, because I mean, we see the Redfin agents all day long. I mean.
Yep, 100%. It is, and that's why I love this model. She's going to make way more than any first and second year agent in this industry because she gets to collect all my business and she gets to learn directly from me. And guys, you're good at what you do. There is a huge value to somebody being able to learn directly from you. Deb.
I love it. Thanks for sharing, Colton. You're the man.
Of course.
And Colton is a
this
great
is-
dancer too. Sorry, Corey.
We went to Nashville together. We got our dance on.
This has been awesome, man. Thank you so much. Question is, so I'll average 30 to 50 deals, transactions per year and run my team myself. And this would be incredible. How many transactions prior to doing this model before you took it on? Because I could see you doing a lot more units because of this. Because I got to the point where my buyers would get like, we go see a couple homes and it's just like, guys, we got to write an offer on one of these. And the service just went way down.
Yeah, of course.
But I do kind of just want to think to myself, I want to make sure I feed her and do enough business to support the business, make it ROI positive. How many transactions individually would you say it makes sense to take this on, or you're not thinking in that term?
I mean, I can tell you what I do here. I can tell you just off doing just 10 million, which in our market is really easy to do. And keep in mind, like people look at our price points. There's one real estate agent for every 6 people in our market. It's wildly competitive. It's one of the most competitive markets in the high price. So we used to be in Vegas. We sold 400 houses in Vegas. It's really hard for us to go do that same thing here. Totally different markets, but take the type of volumes and run the math. The problem that I see people make is we just assume what's going to work for us. You got to model this shit out. Go do, and I actually have a Excel spreadsheet that I'll send you guys that will compare and let you plug the numbers into a traditional team model, and then compare and plug in the numbers to the salaried position. And then one more that's called an empire builder that makes a larger percentage, but without a salary. That one, when you run the model on it and you actually do the math, is far less profitable for the teammate, for the lead agent. So I just be really careful and go run the numbers and do a scenario based on what you know your production is, what you know your average commission is. Because again, there's the really luxury guys like Tim Smith, if you know who he is, sold a $30 million house while he was sitting in a pool sipping on cocktails because he runs a showing partner model. Different for them because they also don't make the 2.5 or the 3% that a lot of markets make. So you got to base it off the 1% that the luxury guys normally make. So, I mean, just run it based on your average commission, the units that you think you'll be, and conservatively estimate it. The market can shift in a second and all of a sudden you realize that you made a bet. There's not a scenario in this though, to where the team agent is going to be more profitable for you. The 5 deals that you would convert, I promise you, your team agents are not converting those 5 deals. There is a loss in revenue that you are losing by losing those 2 to 3 closings because you're trying to save 22 fucking bucks an hour. I promise you it is way more costly for you guys to make that mistake than it is to run through a salaried position to where you can hold them accountable. You have the legal ability to do so, and you get to stay in charge of the conversation, parts of the conversation. They're going to keep those 5 transactions, because where deals fall apart and or don't actually get born is because when we don't have the ability to have a conversation in an articulate way that's going to be able to take an emotional buyer and where you're going to have the ability to plug in logic to make them less emotional and to make the decisions that are going to get them into where they want to be. The new agents don't have that skill set. They haven't gone through their repetitions. They're going to learn that from you. And then you let them go do it. So Devin, when you, dude, I know how you built your business. Imagine if you just continue doing those high dollar an hour activities and just setting the appointments. You'd be able to grow. You'll be way ROI positive, even with the salary and with the bonuses, because he would probably be able to add 20 transactions to his pipeline, to 25 transactions to his pipeline. But he has to be disciplined and actually be willing to do that work. Where people will fuck this up is they throw up their hands like, cool, Papa gets to go on vacation. That's where you screw up, because you're supposed to be reinvesting that time into the high dollar an hour activities that are going to grow the business. They leverage you. And then when they're out of that, Devin, that's when you teach them to go do what you do best. And that's where they'll be able to add business to you that without your efforts, you wouldn't have.
So I hear you say that they're going to write offers and things like that. Currently right now, I'm an agent, does 30 to 45 deals a year. A lot of it, we have some new build projects which help out. But right now, my assistant's doing all those things, writing offers, group texts with clients, setting up showings and all those items like that. Would you keep your assistant doing those things, or would you trade that off to your agent to do those?
So for me personally, like that answer is going to be, how busy is that person going to be? Because there's a time where that showing partner, especially if they stay with you for life, their time is going to be more effectively used, being able to focus more on it. Like Harmony, she's on here. My showing partner, she's damn good at setting appointments. She's damn good at talking to clients. She's gotten really good at doing these things. And her time would be better used, focus on that as opposed to doing that, writing the paperwork. Is she going to be busy enough to justify your your assistant not doing it and allowing your showing partner to focus on the higher dollar in activity as well? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. The hard part for us is like my assistant's been with me for like 2 years, 3 years now. We work great. All that's great. I don't want to start over someone else. The only issue, she's off site. She lives in another state. She used to live in California, Southern California, but moved, and we kept her on. So the issue is for us is like, I feel like I'm getting bogged down doing a lot of $15 items, like sending out, we're doing the CMA challenge. Like I could have a brand new agent do that. And so that's kind of like, I'm more focusing on those items instead of, writing offers and stuff like that.
And look, as much as I love, like I'm running a mega team too. So I get all these perspectives. I could not scale my business the way that we're scaling it as quickly as we're scaling it without the traditional team model. We can't. Like we're forced to also do this. But at the same time, Harmony and I get to work together. Which for me is a great thing. She can speak to how she feels about it with me. But I mean, it's like we know how we work together. We know that and again, it can be a bumpy process. She gets to learn me. I have to learn her. We had a conversation yesterday to where she gets to hear my perspective. I get to hear hers. And now we get to smooth some of the bumps out because we're communicating more effectively. Communication is what makes all of this stuff work. So when you're making those determinations, I always just calculate everything. Would it make more sense for that base pay person to be writing those offers? In most cases, the answer would be yes. Because I would rather Harmony at that point to just be focusing on the following up and progressing more appointments and moving more people towards a transaction. Guys, I'm sorry, we went way over. I should have known that I couldn't do that in an hour. I apologize for having to rush through it. This is why we practice on you guys. And for the next one, it'll be 10 times more polished with more of a presentation put together. But if anybody has any other questions, please feel free to throw them on here. And if you have any questions, you can always reach out to me privately on Instagram or whatever. Happy to help. We will send that SOP to everybody in an email. Holly's super busy. Give us till tomorrow and we'll make sure that we get all that stuff sent out to you.
One other quick reminder, I just want to give everybody who doesn't know yet. If you guys are interested, as well as sending it out to you, we are also going to add it to our YouTube channel, which is the Agent Collaborative. I just put the link, or I just put the name of it in the chat box. So if you guys want to subscribe, if you want to get your hands on it, as well as all of the other webinars that we have created, please feel free to follow us on YouTube.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time.